So let's go see Aunt Nancy, see what's cooking.
Tammy, girl, you knew when I was going to make these biscuits, didn't you? All right, some good old homemade biscuits. Just in time. All right, here's the first step, girl. Start out with some olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you can just any of it, but you really need to grease this skillet. And it has to be cast iron skillet to make homemade biscuits. Always cast iron for any breads. Cornbread and homemade biscuits. So I'm greasing it pretty good. Sides and bottom. Really good. Grease it. Just, I don't want any grease standing on it necessarily, but just grease it pretty good. Okay? This is one of my favorite things to do, and it's a childhood memory for me as well, because my mother always made breakfast every day. Homemade biscuits usually, if not, then it was like toast, but it was always a full breakfast. Eggs, fried eggs, scrambled eggs, some kind of meat, whatever. But my favorite thing about her breads and for breakfast was her homemade biscuits. They were absolutely the best you ever put in your mouth. So it took me about 40 years to get it right, believe it or not, because the temperature, I kept using the wrong temperature. They stayed in the oven too long. They were always too hard. The dogs would bury them, because that's what I'd have to do with them, throw them outside. And they would bury them. They wouldn't even eat them. But anyway, so finally, and this has only been probably in the last 5 years, that I discovered that the heat temperature in the oven has to be the hottest, which is 500 degrees. Make sure you have that degrees before you put these in the oven. And start out with a very clean surface. Make sure that it's sterilized, clean, everything, because everything's going to be rolled out here. The flour is going to go on here in just a minute, but also we already showed you about the cast iron skillet. That's very important. Always cook in a cast iron skillet. Anyway, so see, it's just lightly greased, but you do it all over, that bottom and sides. Okay. Okay, now that we got everything prepared that we're going to be using to make these biscuits, it's only 3 ingredients. That's what I love about it. Self-rising flour. Now, gold medal seems to be prevalent everywhere, but I usually use white lily. But if you can't find white lily, try to use gold medal. Then buttermilk. Then butter, real butter. That's it. So that's very simple. But anyway, get it all out, get it ready to go. You just need your cute little things that you cut them out with, measuring stuff, rolling pin, and then we're going to flour this surface really good. But I was going to say, everybody in our family should have this book. We just printed this. Laura, my niece, Weldon's daughter, Laura Wilson Yarbrough, she printed this book for us and the whole family. So everybody should have this. And it's real down-home cooking from the best cooks in the country, and they really were. Family favorites from the descendants of Earl and Cordy Wilson, my parents. And there were 7 in our family. And we all cooked pretty good, I would say. Anyway, so everyone had their favorites, too, that I can remember. Like Reen, she was the best cook of us all. I mean, she could do anything, and it was to perfection. And Lana's recipe for her blueberry dessert, we call it blueberry pie in the thing, but it's a blueberry dessert that's not really a pie. It's a dessert that's out of this world, and she'd better bring that to every gathering that we had to bring food, or otherwise she just couldn't come. Anyway, and then Pat's specialty, I would say, was her homemade chicken and dressing. That was out of this world. It was tasted just like my Grandma Parks, my mother's mother. And it was absolutely the best. So, and then Earl, Weldon, and Larry's wives were also some of the best cooks. Every time you went to their homes, you knew that you were going to be fed well, because they could cook anything and everything, because they had to for my brothers. Okay, so now with us having all of that said, let's get the ingredients in here. Now, like I said, I don't measure anything exactly, but I do. Okay, that's 1 cup of flour. And I don't generally sift it. 2 cups of flour is basically what I use for when I'm making this, unless I'm making for a really large crowd, which I do a lot of times. You take your flour and just get it out there on the surface, kind of like that. A little bit more, because sometimes it's very sticky and I don't want it sticking to the surface as much. So just have plenty of flour on hand. And then also make sure you got your rolling pin floured up pretty good. All right, and then the next thing is about 3 tablespoons of butter, softened butter, not melted and not cold, but 3 tablespoons of salted butter. Just kind of cut that in, cutting it in like this. And see, sometimes it gets stuck like that. Just wipe it off with your fingers and keep cutting it to where most of that is cut in pretty well. So that you don't have big chunks of butter left in there. It's kind of small size chunks. And that looks pretty good to me. Okay, and then buttermilk. Just going to shake that up a little bit. Now, like I said, I don't measure anything exactly, but as you pour this in, kind of make a little well in the center with your fork, and I use a fork. And then just kind of slowly pour that in, but also gathering flour from the sides as you go. Because you want it to be the right consistency. You don't want it real wet, but you don't want it real dry. So you have to get enough buttermilk in there, and you have to keep pouring, mixing, stirring rather, not mixing. And at some point I have to let go of this and hold this so that you see what I'm talking about, the consistency. It will pull out like this where it's making a dough, and you'll see it. Okay, so it's not real dry and it's not real wet, but it's that kind of a consistency. You see what I'm talking about. All the flour has been incorporated into that. And then you just pour it out onto the floured surface here. Scrape it out. Try not to waste any. Just get as much as I can out of there. Over there. Okay, then now with my hands, I get a little bit more flour on my hands so that I can touch this without it sticking all to me. And then I just gather it up like this and roll it in the flour a little bit. Now you start to knead it where you can get a little bit more flour in there and it's not real wet to your hands. So you have to keep getting some flour. Okay, that's enough kneading, my mother would say. You don't want to knead it too much, but you still want to have lots of flour down there. And so I just keep getting. All right, then you roll it out lightly here. To about probably a little over a quarter of an inch, something like that. And I have two sizes of these cutouts here, biscuit cutters. I like this size here for making a regular biscuit that we're going to have like a sandwich. I always make a sandwich with it. And this is the smaller one that you can use for the little bit that's left. And also when you're cutting it, try not to twist it a lot. And then you take the biscuit and then you just kind of shake off the excess flour, putting it in the skillet close to the edge, and just keep going around to where you had cut the last one. And then when you put the other ones in the skillet, make sure they're touching one another, and then close to the edge like that. Just keep doing it. Just keep going around. I can tell these are going to be good because they're very soft feeling. And that's another indication. They're not very hard feeling, so that's good. Okay, so this amount, the 2 cups of flour, will make about 7 to 8. It makes 8 this size biscuits cut. Okay, so for the leftover, I call them scraps here because I couldn't make any more really big ones. I'll take this and I will kind of piece it together gently. I know nobody ever probably does this but me. But you got to have some flour on your hands to keep it from sticking. Anyway, so you do it as much as you can, gently putting it together. But then you have to end up doing this. Much as I didn't want to, you have to. Because sometimes they tend to be a little tough when you roll them out again and mess with them. Oops, here we go. All right. I didn't know we were going to be having this much more. That's why I didn't have an extra skillet out, but I have another smaller skillet that we're going to use. And I'm going to make them with the small ones here because we like to butter them when they come right out of the oven. Butter them, slather them with butter. And then have some homemade fig preserves or peach preserves or honey. I mean, all of that, so good. So these are just ideal for that. So that's what I do here. And this will probably make a whole skillet of these smaller skillets of this. And they're good for leftovers too. When I have stuff, when I make them for myself, I'll make about this amount and I will eat on these for a week because I'll put them in the refrigerator and get them back out. I've got my breakfast pretty much made. All I got to do is scramble or fry me an egg and bacon, and voila. So anyway, yeah, this made a whole skillet. Perfect. And this, we still have a little bit more scraps left. So what I'm going to do with this is I really am just going to do it in my hands for this one. It don't have to be perfect. You just put it right there in the middle. Look at there. It looks like it just belonged. Okay, so now the next step is to have melted butter. And I'll do about 2 tablespoons of melted butter. I'll put that in the microwave, melt it, and then I pat it on top with my hands, with my fingers, just gently patting the melted butter all over the top before we put it in the oven. Okay, as we're getting ready to get these biscuits in the oven, melted butter, so about 2 tablespoons it looks like. Just pat your fingers in there and then lightly spread it on each biscuit like that and all over. So you just do that real quick and we'll put these in the oven on 500 degrees for 8 minutes. 8 minutes. And after 8 minutes, put it on broil. And just let it brown the top, lightly brown the top. That's it. no more than 8 minutes on bake at 500, and then put it on broil to lightly brown them. And you may have to watch them if you don't have an oven that you can see through really well. So watch it really carefully, but it takes usually about a minute or two. Depends on the oven. Gas ovens take longer, I have found out. And I don't use a gas oven at my home. I use the electric oven. But my daughter has gas and Pat has a gas oven. I know. Okay, so just lightly get these brown. We're fixing to put them in the oven. We got our bacon frying, and our scrambled eggs are fixing to go in there as well. My mother always said, gently handle dough. Gently handle the biscuits. So that means that you don't press down hard on them either when you're putting this on there. Just gently put it on there. Okay, I believe they're about ready, because they are slathered in butter on top, and then we're going to slather them in butter again when we take them out. Except when we put, oh, I always put cheese in there to melt, but I'll go over that with you later. Okay, here we go. Okay, so getting ready to put these biscuits in the oven. Okay, 500 degrees, 8 minutes is all it takes. And then turn it on broil to lightly brown them. Okay, turn the oven off. It's broiled nicely browned. So take these out. This is how they look. Don't they look pretty? And this one should be also. Now, it's very important to get them out of that cast iron skillet immediately. So with a spatula, I'll just take them out, put them on a plate real quick, because if you don't, it continues to cook. These could have browned a little bit, but that oven browns unevenly, seems like. All right, so anyway, get this out of the way, otherwise I'm gonna burn myself. And with this other one, get these out as well. Okay, they're out of there. Now, time to get to buttering them. But I love cheese, melted cheese in my biscuits. And that's how I make my breakfast sandwich, usually. So I'll take these, split them open. And the oven is turned off. And then I'll take, normally I use red hoop cheddar. Very important for the taste. Nothing like it. Red hoop cheddar, but obviously this is not red hoop cheddar. This is all we could get down here. So we use what we can get. So I'll put a slice of that, cut up a little bit like that to where it'll fit in the biscuit well. And I'll do however many people want, because some people don't like cheese. Some people don't like cheese in their biscuit, but I do. So I'll do every one of them like this and put that cheese in there, stuff it in there, and then you put it right back in the oven. But the oven is turned off. So very important. The oven is turned off, but we're just wanting to melt this cheese just a little bit. So we put it in there like that. And here it goes. Right in the oven. I can add this. One thing about cast iron skillets, they're so heavy. So the older you get them, you better keep doing your exercising so you can keep it up. But anyway, and make sure you have a great apron on that catches all of the flour and everything else. And earlier I didn't have it on. I go, oh no, we're gonna have to do this video all over again. But I don't have time. I gotta catch a plane in 2 hours. So anyway, I enjoyed it. It was wonderful, but just wait till we eat. You're going to love it. All right, these are ready to be served right out of the oven to go with, that good old crispy bacon and scrambled cheesy eggs. Let me put them over here because this table is kind of big and I'm not quite that tall.
Oh my
but
gosh,
anyway.
those are the best biscuits I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah, right, Bill. Wait till you taste them, then you can say that.
Okay.
Okay, so I get that cheesy biscuit open, and here I have a cheesy scrambled eggs to put in there like so. And then put my bacon on top.
Nothing like good old country biscuit.
Then I've got a cheesy bacon biscuit sandwich now. That's how I eat mine. Everybody to their own. Lana does the same thing.
How's the biscuit, Mom?
How is it?
You know it.
They're the best stuff I ever put in my mouth.
Cut. How's that biscuit, Bill?
You can make a sandwich out of yours, Bill.
The little biscuits are perfect to put the bacon bits in. It works perfect. Excellent idea. Whoever thought of this, making mini biscuits.
The end.
And a dancing.
These will be really good outtakes.
Yeah. Oh, we should have some music on, right?
We should. Nancy, you forgot to tell them what you think about killing two birds with one stone.
Oh my goodness. Who in the world would kill a bird with any stone? I don't get that one.
I think your apron's good.
I'm a 50s girl, as you can tell.
I know.
I love the 50s.
We should have had that on from
So
the beginning.
cute. I know it. I don't know what we were
We can start
thinking.
all over.
Oh my goodness.